Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom. I decided to make another card video for you today using Jaded Blossom supplies. Basically, I'll be using sort of a whack of stuff from Jaded Blossom, and I'll show you what I'm using. I'm using the clear jar stamp set. I'll be using the Filled with Love stamp and the jar stamp itself. I'll be using the Kawaii weather set. I'll be using the rainbow and a couple of cute faces and one of the clouds. I'll be using the bow dies. I'll be using this one, this bow. I'll be using the scalloped rectangle dies. I keep mine all together. The scalloped rectangle dies. In the size, let's see here, 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. I'm also using the card mat dies, and I'll be using the, basically it's an A2 sized card layer, you know, with the border there. So I think it's 4 by 5 2/4 inches. And I'll be using the mason jar dies. I'll be using this pretty little fabric looking lid cover. And that's what I've got planned today. So basically I went ahead and I stamped the jar and the rainbow and one of the faces actually on the jar itself. And you'll see that I cut it out, I stamped it using Ink on 3's blackout ink. And because it's, you know, it's Copic marker safe. I don't know if you could see that well enough, but there we go. And I cut it out with my brother Scan and Cut with a 0.4 inch border. And I do, or a 0.4 border. I do that basically because I'm a terrible fussy cutter and I'm lazy when it comes to crafting. So that's what I do. I also stamped one of the clouds and with a little face. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. And basically I'll be doing some Copic coloring on that. Generally when I Copic color, it's simple. I'm not very, like I'm not a big colorist or anything like that. So, and I don't pretend to be. So I tend to choose 3 colors that blend well together. And, you know, if it's a larger, piece, I tend to use like more, like, you know, a bigger blending group just so you can get some, you can, you know, notice the, you know, blends and it'll look nicer. But this is such a small little area, so I don't think it needs, you know, so much. So basically I kind of do the, the easy type coloring. I start with my lightest color. I will put a layer down of that. And then I, you know, bring in the darker color from the edges. And then I bring in the darkest. It's just what works for me. And like I said, this is such a tiny little space that doesn't really matter. And the colors will be listed on my blog, but this is YR12, YR15, and YR16 for the orange. And I'm trying to follow, actually, I'm using Doodlebug paper, and I'm following, you know, the pattern kind of on this. So I'm going to be going, you know, orange, yellow. My yellows are Y02, Y08, and Y15. So I'll lay down I'll lay down the Y02 first. And as you can see, this is not rocket science. And like I said, I'm not the greatest colorer. And usually when I'm coloring, it takes me forever. I'm kind of doing a quicker version for you guys today. Otherwise, it'll take me forever to do this. And I can't remember which one's the darkest. So, okay, so we're going to go with Y15 now. And I'm just bringing that in from the edges of the rainbow. Nothing special. And then Y08 will be the darkest. I'm bringing that in. And like I said, I'm not doing anything that fancy. And you know, it'll look it'll look cute enough on its own. So now the next color on this list here is green, and I'm using YG03, YG23, and YG25 for that. So I'll start out with the YG03, and I'm just going to color in this rainbow. Now, I don't know about you, but my eyesight's been going, you know, old eyes. So now I wear cheaters to do this, and what I used to be able to see so clearly, I'm having to use cheaters to see. It's a terrible, terrible thing. So there we go, the green's done. Now next on my list is blue, and for blues I'm using B00, B02, and B05. So, you know, same thing. Bringing in the blue. Now, I don't know, what are all of you people doing for the COVID? We are kind of held up in the house. Just myself, my husband, who's working from home, the cat, and my daughter actually is home from, my daughter's in med school, and she's home from her placement because they pulled all the students out of their placements, and her education is on hold for a little bit, which is scary for her, although, you know, she's home safe, so what can I say? But we're all weathering it out. My son's a nurse at the hospital, and he's working, which is, you know, kind of scary, but we do what we can. Anyway, so there's the blues, and next is the pink, and I chose for the pink, it's going to be RV000, RV52, and RV55. And like I said before, these will all be listed on my blog when I do my posts. So, you know, if you really want to know what colors I used, they'll all be listed there for you. And also, I don't know where everyone's from, but I'm from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, you know, and it's still winter here. I'm looking forward to the spring. In fact, I can't wait for spring. It'll be so nice to get outside more and, you know, enjoy that. Okay, and I hope I'm not boring you guys, because like I said, I'm not the best color in the world. Now I'm finishing up with the oranges again, and that is YR12 is the lightest, so we're just gonna pop that on there. And like I said, this doesn't have to be perfect. It is a homemade card after all. You know, I try my best to, oh, I'm getting glue all over the place. I sort of squeezed my glue down to get everything ready for the video, and I'm making a mess. Okay, anyway, so we started out with the lightest. We'll bring in the second darkest color, and then we'll do the darkest. Anyway, so oops, look at that, a boo-boo. It's a good thing that I have my colorless blender here. So, and also, you know, you can fix your boo-boos with a gel pen, which you'll see me do probably before the end of this video, because, you know, I'm not a professional. I just do what I can do. Anyway, so there we go. And now I'm going to bring in just some C1. And all I'm going to do with the C1 is I'm just going to bring it, like, give the clouds some definition, like nothing fancy. I'm just running it around the edge. And like I told you before, I'm not a professional. I do my best. In fact, I tried to avoid coloring. It's kind of funny. I had a friend in town. Well, I still have a friend in town. She had a local scrapbooking store, and I have a lot of good friends from that store, and they still all card make and paper craft. It's just that she had to give up her store, which we were sad about. And she basically dragged me into card making, kicking and screaming. I was more of a scrapbooker, and I would not say I was a professional scrapbooker. I got it done. And she kept on trying to get me into card making, and then she tried to get me into, She tried to get me into buying Copic markers actually, and I didn't. I was not having any of that. I thought, I don't really like coloring. It's not really my deal. And you know, I was on various card teams, and I would avoid it like the plague. I would, you know, think of every which way not to color was what my plan was. I avoided it, like I said. And now what am I doing? I'm coloring. It's ridiculous. I still can't believe it myself. You might notice that I'm coloring on one of these sheets from a Stampin' Up! Pad. I love them. I just think they're so much, they're so good. And it's not wasteful because I use them over and over and over again. And when they get full of ink and full of glue and everything, then I'll throw them out. But, you know, I turn them over. I use the back side. Now I'm just using BG quadruple zero. And I'm just adding some of that to kind of make the jar kind of look translucent. And like I said, I'm not a professional. I'm bringing in the BG 000 now, and I'm just going to bring, you know, a little bit more color to the edge of that. Nothing special. And I'm doing that. And hopefully I'm not boring you guys to tears. Normally I'm not planning on doing a lot of coloring videos because, like I said, that's not really what I do best. But, you know, I do tend to add a little bit of color to my creatures. Now I'm adding an R20, and I'm adding some little cheeks to my clouds because, you know, why not? It's cute. I love to add faces. And now Jaded Blossom is kind of forayed into the faces, and they're adorable. They add them to their certain, you know, they add them to certain stamp sets. You know, a lot of the kawaii ones have them, and they're so cute. Now what I'm doing is I'm just adding some little freckles to the cheeks with my Sakura 10 white jelly roll pen. And, you know, like I said, nothing fancy. And there we go. So we're done that. So now I'm going to add just a little dimension, and I'm just going to pop up this cloud with some dimensionals. Bring in my trusty little tweezers. This is what I usually use when I'm popping stuff up because, you know, it's easier. There we go. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of glue. I'm using the Craft Tacky Glue from Simon Says, and also paper from Doodlebug Designs. I believe this is the pot of, and it's a little bit of glare there. It's the Pot of Gold 6 by 6 inch paper, and then I also have the 12 by 12 inch paper, and that's what I used for my rainbow background. Anyway, so there we go. And I say anyway a lot, I realized. Maybe that's a Canadian thing. I don't know. We say a and we say anyway a lot. Okay, we got to get that kind of flat. And then basically again. And then now I'm just adding my lid. And this is also from that same pad. Just a green dot lid. It's kind of cute. There we go. Adding that on. There we go. And then we'll add on my little bow. And I cut this out of the dot stripe Doodlebug paper. It's in yellow. It kind of it matches. Because, you know, that's the nice thing about Doodlebug paper. Usually all of their lines do somewhat match. And it makes it easy for card makers because we don't have to think too hard about what's going to go and what's not going to go, which is quite nice. Okay, so that's that. So now I'm going to go on to my actual card. So I used Paper Tray Inks white cardstock, and I made an A2 card. So, you know, cut it 4.25 by 11 and scored it 5.5 inches. And that gives you the perfect size for your A2 sized card. So there's that. Now I'm going to be adding my rainbow striped paper that was cut with the card mat die at 4 by 5¼ inches. And this is that card mat die from Jaded Blossom. And I think, I don't know, I think the rectangles, the stitched rectangles are the ones that I use the most. Like this card mat die and the stitched rectangles are just the one that I grab the most. I don't know. And this is why I need to use glue now, because it's hard for me to line stuff up. I used to be able to just slap it down and not have any issues, but now it seems harder. Okay, so now I'm going to move this out of the way. And there we go. So hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing, and hopefully there's not too much reflection going on there. Anyway, so here we go. So we got that. And now we're going to be stamping the background. And I'll be using my little Misty and the sentiment from that clear jar stamp set and the stitched rectangle dies in the smaller size. And I'm also using the paper tray ink white cardstock for that too. And I'll be using Distress Oxide ink to stamp this. Now this is not only going to be the background, but it's going to be the sentiment. So here we go. So I'm going to just stamp that using the Distress Oxide ink on white. And the nice thing is about Distress Oxide is you can stamp with it and get a pretty clear image, which is nice. So here we go. So I'm stamping my first one, Filled with Love. And it needs another. You know, you do your best. Bring my elbow in. Let's see. And that looks good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it down. I'm going to do a repeated stamped background. So basically what you can do is you know, you've got it in your Misty, and all you have to do is move it up however much room you're going to need to get another clear stamped image. Inches. So I'm going to do it at, yes. So I'll move it to 3 inches next. And the neat thing about this is that it gives you kind of a background, you know, this repeated stamping and your sentiment all in one. So it gives kind of like a neat focal point, like a background for your focal point, you know, which is going to be my jar. So there we go. Now we're going to stamp it twice. I guess we're going to probably have to stamp it twice every single time, but that's not a big deal. Okay, so there we go. Now we're going to move it up again. So we're going to bring it up. And let's see here. Nope, a little bit more than that. Okay, so we're just going to bring it down to just over 2 inches. Now, normally when I'm not on a video, I'm being a little bit more careful with exactly how far. I'm just going to stand up to make sure we're going to pass. Oh yeah, we're good here. And usually I measure it exactly, and I know I've got to move it up exactly an inch or exactly, you know, whatever. But like I said, we're on a video. We're making a video today, and I'm just trying to give you the gist of what I'm doing to make a background, and then you can make it your own. Good, and I should be able to get hopefully one more on there. And we will grab something that I didn't have planned. I'm going to grab some Post-it tape, because I just want to cover up the edge, because I'm going to end up stamping over that, and I don't want that showing. That won't look as cute when you've got an edge showing. There we go. Oh, I'm going to have to move this up a little bit more. Let's see. Hopefully this is going to be... Woo. Sorry, guys. Didn't plan this out as well as I normally do. But this is in the real world. This is real time. So no time lapse and no editing. Partly because I want to show you what it's like when I'm really card making to you, and partly because I don't know how to do the editing yet. I haven't learned that yet. And maybe I'll have that figured out at some point. Anyway, so that was the Distress Oxide ink and Spice Marmalade. And I don't know about you, but it does take a bit of time for the Distress Oxide to dry. And I find myself smearing it sometimes. So you got to be careful with it. Anyway, so I am going to add my glue on the back here. And all I'm doing is I'm centering it on my rainbow background. Now this card is going to be for the Jaded Blossoms, or for Jaded Blossom's next monthly challenge. And the challenge is to use a rainbow. So I decided I would use a rainbow by using the paper rainbow in the background, and also by using the rainbow in the jar. So now I'm trying to decide what else I need to do. Okay. I think just for some fun, I'm going to add a little bit of ink blending on the background too. And I'll be using one of the Tailored Expressions blending brushes with the Distress Oxide ink. And like I said, this is not rocket science. I think we stress out about this kind of stuff too much. So basically what I'm going to do is my jar is going to be about there. So I'm going to want to blend out from the jar and give it a little bit of definition without going onto the back, without going onto my rainbow paper. So I'm just going to start in the middle. And I'm going to add, and the middle's not going to show, so don't stress about that, because the jar is going to be covering that. So it's kind of cool. It'll give us, you know, it'll sort of hide our big boo-boo. There we go. Now let's see how that worked. It'll give us a little bit of, oh, that looks kind of neat. Okay, and I might just bring this down and off. Yeah, I think that looks kind of fun. Okay, so now I'm going to be using some foam tape. Excuse me for a second while I grab my roll of foam tape. I usually use, I use Stampin' Up's Dimensionals a lot, but I also use this 3M foam tape. What I like about the foam tape is, it's bigger, so you can, you know, if it's a bigger piece that you need, you can just stick it down. And also what's cool is that it just rips, so it's super easy. Some of them I know out there, you've got to cut it, which is a bit of a pain. But luckily this one, you don't have to do that, which is kind of fun. Now let's see where I'm going to put this guy. Probably, let's go right. Yeah, let's cover the corner of that. Why not? That's what we're going to do. There we go. Now we can add a little bit of highlighting with your, you know, with your markers if you like. I really like this new Sakura white gel pen. The Jelly Roll ones, they're, you know, the 10 size. It's a little bit thicker, kind of reminds me of the Signo. I've been having good luck with this one, so I'm just adding a bit of a highlight here, you know, on my lid, just for some fun. And I think I'll probably add a few little enamel shapes from Jaded Blossom. And I don't know about you, but I've got a collection of these things. So I'm going to use these guys, and I'm probably going to use these little tiny mini hearts. These are the Tiny Hearts enamel dots, which are fun. And I'm going to add one to the center of my bow, because that's, how cute is that? And then I'm probably going to add maybe a few yellow hearts, because that kind of goes with the colors that I've got going on in here a bit, I think. So if there's a boo-boo, by all means, cover it up. There's no card police, and no one will know. Well, you'll know now because you're watching my video, but other than that, there we go. And I think that's all she wrote. What do you think? Super quick, not too tricky, and even a little bit of Copic coloring on there. What do you know? And that's it. Thank you very much, and maybe come and play along with our challenge at Jaded Blossom for the month of April. It's going to be Use a Rainbow, and that's it. Bye, guys.